Caught in the crossfire, Apple faces a dilemma: tariffs, labor shortages, and a $3,500 made-in-USA iPhone no one wants. With 90% of assembly still in China, a 25% tariff looms. Shift to American soil or pivot to India and Vietnam? U.S. factories lack workers and know-how, more talk than action? Watch the full video. This isn't just Apple's problem, it's a crack in the global supply chain.
Gary, now moving to Apple, right, and we're talking about onshore manufacturing or reshoring manufacturing earlier. They've been threatened with tariffs if it doesn't onshore. Now, the problem that we're seeing is the U.S. not even maybe having the feasibility or the capability to take on that type of workforce. Thing number 4, Gary, tariff trouble for Apple, but is the U.S. manufacturing a feasible option?
Yeah, that's the real issue, Rob. So last week, or it may have been 2 weeks ago, President Trump proposed a 25% tariff on Apple products that weren't manufactured in the U.S. And everybody's saying, okay, wait a minute, an iPhone fully made in the U.S. could be $3,500. Nobody's going to want to buy that. That clearly isn't going to happen. And by the way, worth pointing out, your $1,000 iPhone, maybe has $500, $600 of cost of goods sold in it. If that's the case and all of that were imported, 25% of that is, so you might be adding another $125, worst case scenario, another $200 to the cost of an iPhone. Is that great? No, but it would be cheaper than producing in the US. Of greater concern is the fact that we no longer possess the capability in the US of producing high-end electronics. And, that's when we've talked on multiple prior versions of 5 Things about how the U.S. has sold off its manufacturing capacity over the last 4 decades. This is what we're talking about. It was only, a few decades ago that the U.S. made the best electronics in the world here. We made the best TVs here. We made automobiles here. And, someone can say, well, we're still manufacturing here. Yeah, but we're buying entire systems, not components, entire systems from overseas. But, we don't make the best chips anymore. We don't make the best electronics. We don't make TVs at all. We're not making stereos or producing computers here. All this stuff is bought from overseas. Dell may be putting some of it together here, but other than that, there's really not a lot of this going on. So I don't know that we have the workforce, the trained workforce, able to produce them here. And that's one of the reasons we need to reshore. I mean, it's a problem when we don't have a workforce that can produce what needs to be made. That to me is the bigger concern, that whether an iPhone costs, $1,000 or $1,200 or $2,000.
Yeah, and I think stock chart as well, Gary. You said if the market believed Apple was going to onshore, we'd see more movement down on the stock. The point of this conversation, is this even a conversation, right? Can Apple produce in the U.S. in any way, in any capacity, or is this just a completely obsolete point?
They can't. I would love to see that change, but it's not going to happen, in a time frame that, would allow them to comply with, President Trump's threat. But the truth is the market isn't, if you look at the stock price, the market isn't really that worried about it. It makes for a compelling headline, but I don't think it's going to change Apple's manufacturing calculus. The U.S. just doesn't have the infrastructure or skilled labor base to absorb iPhone scale production. Right now, they're doing 90% of that production in China. Here's what I think will happen. I think that Apple may accelerate token reshoring efforts, and some of it they're going to be able to do. Remember, Taiwan Semiconductor is building fab plants here in the US, so they may be able to move like some of the M1 chip production to domestic production over the next couple of years. And then I think what they may do is expand in countries like India and Vietnam to hedge political risk. And then, go to the president and say, okay, look, we're going to be dealing with Taiwan Semiconductor's US-based plant. We're going to have the chips made here in the US. We'll get, a bunch of our assembly out of China and have that in more friendly hands like India and Vietnam. What do you think? Can we make a deal? And, that's probably the kind of thing where, President Trump can claim he gained concessions. And, one of the things the president likes to do is he likes to threaten really big catastrophic kinds of things. And that gets his target to move. And then, he backs down a little bit. I don't think it's the Trump always chickens out trade. I think it's more he threatens, Armageddon to get people to move, and he just wants to get enough of a concession that he can claim victory on it. And I think that probably will be enough.
Yep, definitely makes sense there, Gary, and great breakdown as we look at Apple and their current position. This is the reshoring issue of Deep Knowledge Investing's The 5 Things to Know in Investing for this week. Be sure to head to our website, deepknowledgeinvesting.com. Sign up for a free mailing subscription, be added to our newsletter. You can also use the Ask Gary feature, fire over any questions that you may have about positions, thoughts on the markets, whatever it may be that you want to know. May even see one of your questions end up on this version of The 5 Things.